Hello, the unspoken woman, welcome to the channel. The fastest way to confuse the world is to refuse to think the way the world expects you to. Here's something fascinating. Psychologists have long observed that the human brain is wired to follow patterns. We look for familiar faces, familiar opinions, familiar routines, and familiar behaviors because predictability makes us feel safe. In fact, most people can guess what their friends, co-workers, or family members will do next with surprising accuracy. But every once in a while, someone comes along who completely breaks that pattern. And that's where things get interesting. Sigma females often seem like walking question marks, not because they're trying to be mysterious, but because they process the world through a lens that many people simply don't understand. While others spend their lives asking, "How do I fit in?" they're busy asking, "Why is everyone trying so hard to fit in?" That single difference creates a chain reaction of behaviors that leave people scratching their heads. What makes this even more fascinating is that there are certain things Sigma females genuinely cannot wrap their minds around. Not because they're smarter than everyone else, but because their internal logic works so differently that some common human behaviors feel almost alien. They watch people make the same decisions over and over and silently wonder, "Did I miss the meeting where everyone agreed this made sense?" If confusion burned calories, they'd accidentally stay in shape just by observing people. In today's video, we're diving into 20 mind-boggling things Sigma females simply can't comprehend. These aren't the usual internet cliches about independence or avoiding drama. They're deeper psychological contradictions, everyday habits, and hidden behaviors that leave Sigma females genuinely puzzled. Some of these observations may surprise you, others might make you laugh, and a few could make you pause the video and rethink the way you've been living all along. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may discover that the biggest mystery in the room isn't the Sigma female. It's the world everyone else accepts without ever questioning. Number 1. Why some people borrow personalities instead of building one. One of the hardest things for a Sigma female to understand is how easily some people seem to change depending on who they're around. Around one group, they're loud and fearless. Around another, they're quiet and careful. They suddenly adopt new opinions, new hobbies, new slang, and even a different sense of humor. It's almost as if they're trying on different masks, hoping one of them will finally fit. To a Sigma female, this isn't adaptability, it's confusion. She understands behaving respectfully in different situations, but she struggles to understand abandoning your real self just to gain acceptance. If your personality changes every time the room changes, then who are you when no one is watching? What surprises her most is how common this has become. Social media has made it even easier. People copy the lifestyles, beliefs, and attitudes of influencers they have never met. Trends spread faster than independent thought. Many people don't stop to ask whether something truly reflects who they are. They simply wear whatever identity is popular at the moment. A Sigma female finds this deeply puzzling because she believes a personality should be discovered, not downloaded. She would rather stand alone with genuine beliefs than belong to a crowd built on borrowed ones. She knows that fitting in is temporary, but knowing yourself lasts much longer. Ironically, people who constantly change to please others often end up pleasing no one, including themselves. They spend years collecting pieces of other people's identities while slowly losing sight of their own. To a Sigma female, that's one of the greatest tragedies of modern life. A borrowed personality may win applause for a while, but it can never bring the quiet confidence that comes from being unmistakably, unapologetically yourself. Number 2. Why being liked is treated like a survival skill. One thing that genuinely puzzles a Sigma female is how much energy people spend trying to be liked. It's almost as if approval has become a form of currency. People hold back honest opinions, laugh at jokes they don't find funny, agree with ideas they don't believe in, and even stay in unhealthy relationships because they're afraid someone might stop liking them. To her, this way of living feels exhausting. She understands the value of kindness and respect, but she cannot understand shaping your entire life around other people's opinions. If every decision depends on applause, then your happiness is no longer yours. It belongs to whoever is watching. She notices how often people apologize for things that don't require an apology. They soften their words to avoid offending everyone, even when they're speaking the truth. They become experts at reading the room, but strangers to themselves. Somewhere along the way, being accepted became more important than being authentic. What confuses her even more is that the people who chase approval the hardest rarely feel secure. The compliments never seem to be enough. One criticism can erase 100 praises. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much approval goes in, it never stays for long. A Sigma female would rather be respected for who she truly is than admired for a version of herself she had to invent. She knows that not everyone will understand her, and she's at peace with that. To her, being disliked for being real is far less painful than being loved for pretending to be someone else. That's why she never sees popularity as a necessity. She sees it as something that comes and goes, while self-respect is something worth protecting for life. Number 3. Why silence makes so many people uncomfortable. Silence has become one of the rarest things in modern life, and that's exactly why a Sigma female finds people's fear of it so fascinating. The moment a conversation slows down, someone reaches for their phone, forces another topic, or starts talking simply to avoid the awkwardness. It's as if a few quiet seconds need to be rescued before they become unbearable. She doesn't understand that reaction at all. To her, silence isn't empty, it's revealing. It gives people a chance to think before they speak instead of speaking before they think. It exposes who is comfortable with themselves and who depends on constant noise to avoid facing their own thoughts. She has learned that the loudest moments often reveal the least, while silence has a way of uncovering what words try to hide. She notices something else that many people overlook. Those who fear silence often reveal more than they intend to. They rush to explain themselves, fill every pause with unnecessary details, or keep talking until they accidentally expose their real feelings. A Sigma female doesn't interrupt that process. She simply watches, listens, and learns. What truly confuses her is why silence is so often mistaken for tension, weakness, or a lack of confidence. Some of the strongest people she has ever encountered didn't need to dominate every conversation. They knew their value wasn't measured by how many words they spoke, but by whether those words actually mattered. She sees silence as a form of discipline. It takes patience to listen without preparing your next sentence. It takes confidence to let a pause exist without feeling the need to fix it. While many people try to escape quiet moments, a Sigma female often finds her greatest clarity inside them. For her, silence isn't something to fear. It's where truth finally has room to be heard. Number 4. Why people mistake. Constant emotional expression for honesty. One thing a Sigma female finds surprisingly difficult to understand is why so many people believe that expressing every emotion the moment they feel it is the same as being honest. Somewhere along the way, self-control started looking fake, while emotional outbursts became proof of authenticity. To her, that idea simply doesn't add up. She believes emotions are important, but she also knows they are temporary. Anger can disappear in an hour. Fear can fade overnight. Excitement can make people promise things they'll regret later. If every passing emotion is treated like absolute truth, people end up making permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. She notices how often people say, "I'm just being honest," when they're actually being impulsive. They blurt out every thought that crosses their mind, believing raw emotion automatically makes their words meaningful. But honesty without self-control can quickly become carelessness. Not every feeling deserves a microphone. What puzzles her even more is how people sometimes celebrate emotional reactions while ignoring emotional discipline. The person who shouts, cries, or lashes out is often seen as real, while the person who stays calm is accused of hiding something. A Sigma female sees it differently. She knows it takes far more strength to understand your emotions than to simply release them. That doesn't mean she suppresses how she feels. It means she gives herself time to understand it before putting it into words. She knows emotions are valuable messengers, but poor leaders. They can point toward a problem, but they shouldn't always decide the solution. To her, honesty isn't measured by how quickly you express a feeling. It's measured by whether your words still make sense after the emotion has passed. Real authenticity isn't saying everything you feel. It's knowing which feelings deserve your voice and which ones simply need your patience. Number 5. Why people spend years protecting reputations they secretly dislike. One of the strangest things a Sigma female observes is how many people become prisoners of a reputation they never wanted in the first place. They spend years acting a certain way because that's what everyone expects. The funny one keeps making jokes, even when life isn't funny anymore. The tough one refuses to admit they're hurting. The people pleaser keeps saying yes while quietly wishing they had the courage to say no. What confuses her is that these people often know they're unhappy, yet they continue protecting an image that no longer reflects who they are. It's like carrying around a heavy suitcase simply because you've carried it for so long. Instead of asking whether it's still worth the weight, they convince themselves they have no choice. A Sigma female sees reputation very differently. She believes your character should guide your reputation, not the other way around. The moment your image starts controlling your decisions, you've stopped living your own life. You're performing for an audience that may not even be paying attention. She also notices how fear keeps this cycle alive. People worry that changing will disappoint others, damage their status, or make them look inconsistent. So they remain trapped inside a version of themselves that expired years ago. They protect a label while neglecting the person behind it. To her, that's one of life's quiet tragedies. Growth naturally changes people. New experiences reshape beliefs, priorities, and goals. There is nothing wrong with becoming someone different if that change is honest. Number 6. Why boredom terrifies people. One thing a Sigma female simply cannot understand is why so many people treat boredom like an enemy. The moment there's nothing to do, they reach for their phones, scroll endlessly, turn on the television, or search for any distraction they can find. It's as if being alone with their own thoughts for a few minutes feels unbearable. She sees boredom completely differently. To her, boredom isn't a problem waiting to be solved. It's a signal that the mind finally has room to breathe. When the noise dies down, something interesting happens. Questions appear. Ideas connect. Solutions that seemed impossible suddenly become clear. The mind starts doing what it was designed to do instead of constantly reacting to the next notification. What fascinates her is how many people claim they want creativity, yet they never allow themselves the quiet moments where creativity is born. They fill every empty space with entertainment, and then wonder why original thoughts rarely visit them. A mind that never rests often ends up repeating what it has already seen instead of creating something new. She also notices that boredom exposes something deeper. It forces people to meet themselves without distractions. For some, that's uncomfortable because silence leaves no place to hide. It reveals unanswered questions, neglected dreams, and emotions that constant busyness keeps buried. A Sigma female doesn't run from those moments. She welcomes them because they often reveal what truly matters. Some of her best decisions don't come from rushing through life. They come from slowing down long enough to hear herself think. She believes that a person who cannot tolerate boredom often becomes dependent on constant stimulation, while a person who learns to sit with it gains something far more valuable: clarity. That's why she doesn't fear an empty moment. She fears a life so full of distractions that there's never time to discover who you really are. Number 7. Why people compete in games they never wanted to play. One of the biggest mysteries to a Sigma female is watching people exhaust themselves chasing victories they never stop to question. She sees people competing for bigger titles, more expensive lifestyles, more followers, more attention, and more recognition, but she often wonders who decided these were the prizes everyone should want. What surprises her is that many people don't choose their goals. They inherit them. They spend years climbing ladders without asking if they even like where those ladders are leaning. Society applauds the race, so they join it automatically. By the time they realize the finish line doesn't make them happy, they've invested too much to turn around. A Sigma female cannot relate to that way of thinking. Before she commits herself to anything, she asks a simple question: is this something I truly want, or something I've been told I should want? That single question saves her from wasting years chasing someone else's definition of success. She notices how competition often changes people. Friends quietly become rivals. Happiness starts depending on being one step ahead of someone else. Achievements lose their meaning because there's always another person doing more, earning more, or receiving more praise. The race never really ends. It simply changes direction. To her, the greatest freedom comes from refusing to enter competitions that don't align with her values. She doesn't feel the need to prove she's winning a game she never signed up to play. She would rather make slow progress toward a life that genuinely fulfills her than sprint toward a destination chosen by strangers. That's why she doesn't envy every success she sees. She understands that not every trophy is worth chasing, not every finish line is worth crossing, and not every race deserves a single step. Sometimes the smartest move isn't winning the game, it's realizing you were never meant to play it at all. Number 8. Why people ignore patterns. Simply because they're uncomfortable. One thing that never stops fascinating a Sigma female is how easily people overlook patterns when those patterns reveal something they don't want to accept. She has seen someone apologize a dozen times without changing, yet people keep believing, this time will be different. She has watched trust be broken again and again, only for excuses to take the place of common sense. To her, this is one of the strangest habits people have. They don't ignore the facts because they can't see them. They ignore them because accepting those facts would force them to make a difficult decision. Sometimes it's easier to protect a comforting story than to face an uncomfortable truth. A Sigma female pays close attention to repeated behavior because she believes actions leave fingerprints. Anyone can have a bad day. Anyone can make one mistake. But when the same choices, the same excuses, and the same outcomes keep appearing, she stops calling it an accident. She calls it a pattern. What she finds remarkable is that people often trust words more than evidence. They'll believe promises, explanations, and emotional speeches while ignoring months or even years of behavior pointing in the opposite direction. To her, that makes no sense. Words can change overnight. Patterns rarely do. This doesn't make her cynical. It makes her observant. She isn't looking for flaws in people. She's looking for consistency. She understands that real character isn't revealed during special moments. It's revealed by what someone repeatedly chooses when nobody is forcing them. Number 9. Why apologies are often used as permission slips. One thing a Sigma female struggles to understand is why some people treat an apology as if it automatically erases what happened. She has noticed a strange pattern. Someone makes the same mistake, says, "I'm sorry," receives forgiveness, and then repeats the exact behavior a few weeks later. Eventually, the apology starts sounding less like regret and more like a ticket that allows the cycle to continue. To her, an apology has never been the finish line. It's only the beginning. The real proof comes afterward. If nothing changes, then the apology was just another conversation. Words are easy to say when they're expected. Change is much harder because it demands effort, discipline, and personal responsibility. She finds it confusing that so many people are moved by emotional speeches but overlook repeated actions. A heartfelt apology can be convincing, especially when it's delivered with tears, promises, and perfect timing. But she knows emotions can create powerful moments without creating lasting change. What matters to a Sigma female isn't whether someone feels guilty for a day. It's whether they value the relationship enough to behave differently tomorrow. She believes that genuine remorse leaves evidence. It shows up in new habits, better decisions, and consistent effort, not just carefully chosen words. This doesn't mean she refuses to forgive. She understands that everyone makes mistakes. What she doesn't understand is forgiving the same choice over and over while expecting a different outcome. At some point, repeated forgiveness without accountability becomes permission instead of grace. Number 10. Why people ask for honesty but reward comforting lies. One thing that genuinely confuses a Sigma female is how often people claim they want the truth, yet become uncomfortable the moment they hear it. They say, "Just be honest with me," but what they often mean is, "Tell me something that won't challenge how I already see myself." The truth is welcomed only as long as it feels good. She notices this contradiction everywhere. Someone asks for genuine feedback, but becomes defensive when they receive it. A friend wants advice, but only if it agrees with the decision they've already made. A person complains about being surrounded by fake people, yet distances themselves from the one person willing to tell them what they actually need to hear. To a Sigma female, this makes very little sense. If you're only willing to accept honesty when it flatters you, then you're not really searching for truth. You're searching for reassurance. She believes honesty isn't always pleasant, but it is valuable. The people who help you grow are not always the ones who make you feel comfortable. Sometimes the most meaningful conversations leave you thinking for days because they expose something you had been avoiding. What surprises her even more is that comforting lies often receive louder applause than uncomfortable truths. People would rather protect their pride than confront their weaknesses. Yet those same weaknesses continue to shape their lives because no one is willing to address them honestly. A Sigma female doesn't speak harshly for the sake of being blunt. She simply believes that truth should never have to compete with comfort. Real growth begins the moment someone is willing to hear what they don't want to hear. Number 11. Why people chase closure from those who created the damage. One thing a Sigma female finds incredibly difficult to understand is why so many people wait for the person who hurt them to be the one who heals them. They hold on, hoping for the perfect apology, the perfect explanation, or one final conversation that will somehow make all the pain disappear. Months pass, sometimes years pass. Yet their peace remains tied to someone who has already shown they don't know how to protect it. To her, this is one of life's biggest contradictions. She believes closure is often treated like a gift that someone else must hand over, when in reality, it's a decision you eventually have to make for yourself. If the person who caused the wound lacked the wisdom, kindness, or maturity to prevent it in the first place, why expect them to suddenly possess everything needed to heal it? What surprises her is how people keep replaying old conversations in their minds, searching for hidden meanings that no longer matter. They wait for texts that never arrive, explanations that may never come, and accountability from people who have never accepted responsibility for anything. Meanwhile, life quietly moves forward without them. A Sigma female refuses to let her future depend on another person's willingness to change. She understands that some questions will never be answered, and some endings will never feel satisfying. But she also knows that waiting forever for perfect closure only creates another kind of prison. She chooses acceptance over endless waiting, not because what happened didn't matter, but because her peace matters more. To her, healing begins the moment you stop asking the person who broke your heart to rebuild it. Some doors don't need one last conversation before they close. They simply need the courage to be shut. Sometimes the greatest closure isn't receiving the answers you wanted. It's no longer needing them at all. Number 12. Why people wait for permission to become who they already know they are. Perhaps the greatest mystery to a Sigma female is watching people put their lives on hold while waiting for approval that may never come. They wait for family to agree, friends to understand, society to accept them, or strangers to applaud their choices. Days turn into years, and the life they wanted remains trapped behind one invisible question. What will people think? She simply cannot understand giving that much power to people who will never live with the consequences of your decisions. She has noticed that many people already know what they want. They know the career they wish they had pursued. They know the relationship they should have walked away from. They know the dream they buried years ago because someone called it unrealistic. Deep down, the answer has been there all along. What they are really waiting for isn't clarity. They're waiting for permission. To a Sigma female, that is one of the saddest trades a person can make. Every time you wait for someone else's approval, you hand them a small piece of your future. Little by little, your life becomes a collection of choices designed to keep other people comfortable instead of making yourself fulfilled. She believes confidence isn't born the day everyone supports you. It begins the day you stop needing them to. That doesn't mean ignoring wise advice or refusing to listen to people who genuinely care. It means understanding that your life is ultimately your responsibility. No one else can carry your regrets, your missed opportunities, or your unrealized potential. As you've seen throughout this video, what confuses a Sigma female isn't that people are different. It's the contradictions she sees every day. She struggles to understand why so many people trade authenticity for approval, ignore obvious patterns, chase empty victories, fear silence, wait for permission to live, and hold on to habits that quietly steal their peace. These aren't just personality differences. They're ways of thinking that shape the course of an entire life. Whether you consider yourself a Sigma female or not, there's something valuable to take away from these observations. They invite us to pause, question the things we've accepted without thinking, and ask ourselves whether we're living by choice or simply following the crowd. Sometimes the biggest transformation doesn't come from learning something new. It comes from seeing something familiar in a completely different way. The strongest people aren't the ones who always have the loudest voices or the biggest audiences. They're often the ones who have the courage to think independently, stay true to their values, and keep growing even when no one is watching. If you enjoyed this video and found yourself nodding along, or even challenging some of these ideas, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos. And if one of these points spoke to you the most, share it in the comments below. I'd love to know which one made you stop and think. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and most importantly, never let the world convince you to become someone you're not.